Welcome back to the education stage. Next up, pandemic problems, how to thrive, not just survive. This session is sponsored by eBay Motors. Visit their e-commerce center at booth number 3073. Ladies and gentlemen, here to help us navigate our pandemic problems and to introduce our panel, the founder and CEO of HEROHUB, Burt.
Thank you. Welcome to AIMExpo and the education platform here. It's a real opportunity to be here with fellow dealers and especially to bring up on stage here in just a moment the Nash Powersports team. When I first talked to Bill Nash about participating in this panel discussion on the pandemic problems that dealers face today, he said, "I don't see any problems. I only see opportunities and solutions." And with that mindset, with that winning attitude, we can take that back to the dealership and not just survive, but thrive in this environment. So right now, we'll do pandemic problems facing dealers today. Join me again and the Nash Powersports team at 3 p.m. this afternoon for cultivating a community of new riders. And then, of course, we've got Ricky Carmichael, the GOAT, at 5 p.m. So the list of problems goes on and on that a dealer faces. And Mark Rogers, in his session that was he moderated yesterday, all of these things were identified. And we'll have a discussion. We'll have a fun discussion about what are those solutions, what are some of the ideas that this dealership has implemented to overcome some of these challenges, some of these hurdles. Employee burnout, transportation delays, labor costs, pressure from online retailers, employee retention, rising overhead costs, inventory shortages, and changing customer expectations. The list just keeps going on and on and on. I want to go back to a simpler day. When I helped start Rexburg Motorsports back in 1996, just celebrated their 25th year in business. I since have sold my share, but I remember a time when customers weren't Googling everything on their cell phone. And there was one particular customer that taught me a powerful lesson, and this was Dallin, a 9-year-old boy that came in every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. with his mother. And they visited the showroom at the same time every week on the same day. And it was like clockwork. And the customer visits, I realize now, looking back, how precious those were. I want to get back to the story about Dallin in a minute, but first I'd like to share with you some customer insights. So we're in today, and what does that mean? What are the customer preferences for buying in this day and age, in this time? I've collected some research and want to share with you some of those insights. So first I'll share with you, this is a study done by Shopify recently, and this gives a summary of consumer preferences. So this isn't just Powersports. From here, the rest of the data I'll share with you will be Powersports consumer specific. But in this, it shows that consumers shifted 52% more of their spending online because of the pandemic or during the pandemic. And 51% said that they felt uncomfortable with in-store shopping during the pandemic. So what does that look like for Powersports owners, for our customers? HEROHUB performed a study, and some of the insights that we got out of that was, 89% said that COVID hasn't affected anything, has nothing to do with how they prefer to buy. And so this was awesome. We have an awesome customer base. And there's a strong affinity to dealerships. These customers are loyal to dealerships. Further on, if you look a little deeper, and I think Tony Gonzalez mentioned this yesterday, that in the high 90s, start their shopping experience online when shopping for a motorcycle or power sports vehicle. 92% said that they prefer buying from a dealership. When buying from a dealership, they prefer to take delivery of their unit at the dealership. So they want to come in. Customers want to come in, and this is a lot different. This tells a stark difference in story from just consumers in general. So we have a unique audience and target customer we're working with. So if you look at that, it's interesting. That's 8% that don't prefer to pick up and take delivery of their vehicle at the dealership. What are the rest doing? Well, 8% said that they prefer delivery. They prefer delivery service by the dealer so that they can get it taken to their home. You look at that, and that's still very low. But if you look at that in a study that HEROHUB did before the pandemic, we identified that 2%, it was only 2% that preferred delivery. So we've seen and we've heard a lot of hype about, a lot of the manufacturers come out with programs, home delivery. Half the customers aren't preferring that, but it's interesting. There's movement there. That's 300% more are now prefer home delivery. And you've seen some of that, seen more of that in your dealership. That might mean it's just out of convenience. More of your customers are now having Grubhub deliver their lunch to the office instead of going to pick that up. So with all the delivery services, we see this as a trend in power sports as well. When you go to parts and accessories, you can look at this as a problem, or we can look at this like Bill Nash does as an opportunity. And in this study post-COVID, only 16% of power sports owners say they're most likely to purchase parts and accessories in the dealership. And 81% said that they prefer or they're most likely to purchase parts and accessories online. So we look at that and think, well, that's a huge problem. Or is there an opportunity? And we'll talk about that more as we bring the Nash Powersports team up on stage. I want to go back to Dallin, the 9-year-old boy that came into the dealership. And as a pretty new dealer principal, and I'll tell you, I got a promotion when I bought out my boss at age 25. I got a promotion from parts and service manager to firefighter. And that was my new role. And as firefighter, you're constantly dealing with all the endless problems that come up in a dealership. Can anyone relate with the firefighter title? Yeah, almost everybody. So as a firefighter, I didn't notice Dallin. I didn't know that Dallin came in with his mom every week on Tuesday at 9:30. But guess who did? Had great people. Carrie, a new apparel manager, a newly formed department, a new employee, noticed Dallin and got to know Dallin and his mom. And she found out that Dallin, the reason that he came in the same time every week was he was on his way to the hospital for chemo treatments. Dallin had a form of cancer that would soon take his life. And so she helped Dallin by giving him DVDs that played in our showroom of action videos of power sports so that when he went to his appointments at the hospital to get treatments, he could watch people having fun on power sports vehicles. Well, that turned into a Make-A-Wish Foundation meeting that happened shortly thereafter. And when they met with Dallin, they said, "What would you like?" They suggested a big trip to Disney World. And you know what Dallin said to Make-A-Wish Foundation? He said, "I just want to be a power sports mechanic. I want to work in a shop." And so our service manager got word of this from Carrie and arranged an appointment to have Dallin come in and work on a Saturday with Big Mike. Big Mike later got a mechanical engineering degree and helped develop Honda ATVs and side-by-sides. But Big Mike spent the day with Dallin and taught him the ropes of being a power sports mechanic. 9-year-old Dallin. My sales manager got wind of this and helped with Make-A-Wish, helped him get a little four-wheeler, a youth ATV, that he rode the wheels off. He wore those out over the next 9 months, and then he passed away. But what Dallin taught our dealership, what Dallin taught me, was the power of what we're doing, that there's greater meaning to all this than just running a dealership and making a profit, that it's much deeper, and that to make profit is really important or we can't make meaning. And so we need to do all these things. We need to ask all these questions that Tony Gonzalez just shared with us. But we also need to look at not only our own problems, but what are others' problems? If we are solving our own problems correctly, we're helping our customers to love us more, which is awesome because we're going to have loyal customers, we're going to make more money. But if we can look at what are the problems that our community is having, and we can work on those as well, if we can have the vision and foresight to do that, we can now make meaning, which will always turn into success in a dealership if we do it right. So I challenge you to listen to the Nash Powersports team, the things that they're doing to improve their business so that they can make profit, so they can make meaning. But as we go through these sessions, as you're taking notes in Tony's seminar on what to work on, what problems to fix in your dealership, write that down, but also write down what is my plan to solve a problem for those that I serve, my customers, my most important asset. So with that, I'd like to welcome on stage the Nash Powersports team, Bill Nash, Brian Kane, and Matt. We've got the comfy chairs for you, so come and join me. And everyone give them a big welcome. It's our first dealership, I think, that's come on stage. So I didn't tell you guys about this, but I actually went and went through all your Google reviews for all your dealerships. And there is a couple bad ones, actually, that I found. Do you believe it?
Absolutely. 100%. There's always bad ones.
Okay, so I just want to share a couple of them.
Yeah.
Not the bad ones. I don't know if you can see these, but I'll read it. This is a review. Bought a bike on a Saturday, needed delivery a good ways away. Today is Wednesday, and the bike was delivered as promised and set up properly. Love it. The deal was fair given the market conditions, which I think that's interesting, and the whole process only took an hour or so, including financing. Big thanks for communicating regularly and making things go so smoothly. All of them don't go this well, though, do they? But we looked at the statistics, there's more customers that prefer delivery. What are you guys doing in that department? Have you seen that, and what are you doing with new unit deliveries? Are you seeing a trend with home delivery? I'm going to sit down.
I would say we see a few more than we did before, but the experience for the customers coming down to the dealership, and we do everything we can. You know, there are always online inquiries where they start, and once you get the guy in the door and treat them right, they want to be there. And that's where we get them to spend the money. If they're just at home asking you to deliver a unit to their door, they only care about one thing: what's their total price and how can they pay for it?
Yeah, and the experience, I'm sure they came into the dealership. I want to share one more if we can go back to the screens. This is just purchased bike from Tyler. I think Tyler's in the Mesa location.
Yep.
And Nash is a different kind of a dealer, the kind that doesn't exist anymore. They aren't about bleeding the customer dry. Tyler is amazing. He doesn't lie. He's honest and upfront. Simply put, Nashty Nation is what he's calling you. Hashtag Nashty Nation will not screw you to make a sale. It seems like they're saying you're not bad. But that's awesome.
You know, everybody's got to make money to pay their bills, pay their employees, and hopefully create a good life. But, we've chose to give our customers value because this situation isn't going to last forever. And because it doesn't last forever, they all have memories. And they can either be good ones or bad ones. And if they're good, they're going to continue to send us customers and buy from us and hopefully lifelong Nash Nation.
That's great. So tell me a little bit more about that. Does that mean, Brian, are your dealerships, are you discounting to deliver that value? It doesn't mean you're discounting it, especially in this environment.
Oh, absolutely not. We're meeting or exceeding any of the industry standards that Tony put up on the board today and garage composites across the thing. We're just making relationships with the customers. People want to buy from us because we are out in the field. We're riding weekly. We're sponsoring rides. We're involved with it. We've got social media presence. They know they can pick up the phone and call Bill directly or myself directly or Matt directly or Brandon directly. So it's just a family atmosphere that they're willing to pay for the extra service, for sure.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit more, one of the problems, or that we could interpret as a problem is the online demand for parts and accessories. Consumers prefer to buy parts and accessories online, apparently. What are you guys doing to create an experience so that you capture the parts and accessories business?
Well, the first thing we did, we've been very resourceful. So we went out and sourced out products that we're building for ourselves under the Nasty Customs name, and we're actually stocking that in our stores, and we're pushing that as our house brand. Everybody's going to have a different opinion about what they want, and the hardest thing to do to captivate away from the internet is they go on a ride and they see their buddy's got, high lifter A-arms and stuff, and then they come to the store and they say, do you have high lifter A-arms? And we say, no, but we have our Nasty Custom A-arms, and this is why we put them on our vehicles. So we take a strong standpoint of the stuff that we want to stock and carry and sell it to the customer rather than sitting at home going, oh, my buddy's got that one, click it and buy it. Because if you actually look at the reviews on some of the stuff that's online, it's not great. We also turn into allow them to, take that accessory and have it installed at the store, where some of this stuff is getting beyond, oil changes in the garage for most of the products we're selling these days. So we're offering the service there, take it right from there to the parts. Tires is a perfect example of that. The tire market on internet's been a bilge for a long, long time because that's how internet people got you to come to their website. We're sourcing the product at a reasonable price, offering it at a reasonable price that we know that we're competitive with the internet, and we're asking them to bring their vehicle down so we can install it for free for them. So now we have the vehicle there, we've sold tires and wheels, and we have the opportunity to sell more stuff like Tony was talking about earlier.
So a big part of it, what I'm hearing is it's number one, branding. You're putting your brand behind it. You're endorsing certain products that you believe in, that you know work for your customers. And then the convenience of installation on all the technical accessories, you're taking care of them.
Absolutely. And some of the information Tony provided earlier, the inventory dollars for parts and accessories are through the roof. And as we all know as dealers, that's the only thing we really have to pay for in the store is, payroll expenses and major units floored, used units you can floor, PG&A we have to pay for, and it sits on the shelf. So are you always going to have, $800,000 of the right stuff or what's online or all that stuff? We just find value in the stuff that we're putting on there, and it's our responsibility to show the customers why we're putting it on and why it's better. And we're dressing our units with that stuff. So they walk in and see a unit on the floor, with $8,000 in accessories on it, it's all our stuff.
And Matt, I'd like you to weigh in on this. Matt's the director of marketing. How does marketing the vehicles and the accessories come into play? Can you weigh in more on that?
Yeah, so I work with Brian, and we'll pick and choose what we kind of put online is almost the start of a conversation for e-commerce. You know what I mean? They can buy some doors, buy some other things, but it's a conversation starter. Then you get them to call the store, like they can purchase just the doors if they want, but then they call the store, actually I need some more of this, some more of that. And then you start to build that relationship like Brian was talking, and it just becomes more real, and they're like, okay, I've got a friend down here that can help me out with the full process. So it's basically, yeah, you're fishing a little bit. You know what I mean? You're starting the conversation online, but then you bring it in-house and you get the right person to deal with it, and then that relationship starts for life cycle.
So the discussion happens at the beginning with the accessories and the customization.
Yeah, but it also starts at the beginning of the sales purchase. When you're talking to the guy get him on the phone as fast as you can, get him in the store as fast as you can. But we also have parts people that are dedicated to the sales department and actually work under the sales manager, not the parts manager, that specifically deal just with the customers buying accessories for major unit. And they're paid also on the labor for it. So they're essentially a service writer for the sales department. And those guys crush it. I mean, they're over $100,000 a month all the time in sales to PG&A and labor.
I think because of that, Nash is an outlier. You're capturing probably way more than your fair share of that accessory business because of you're intentional about that business.
I want it all, and I don't want the guy to leave our store and take his rig that's bone stock to an aftermarket shop who, doesn't have any overhead. It's probably a pissed off ex-mechanic that decides from a dealership that may have been yours and, becomes a competitor. And the first thing the guy does is ask for a parts discount at your dealership.
That's awesome. I love the dedicated staff, service advisor for the sales department. It just shows tremendous commitment to the P&A business, and you can see why you're successful. I'd like to shift gears and talk about inventory. I want to make sure that we address this concern. There's a shortage of new units out there. What are you doing to deal with that? How do you see that as an opportunity and not a problem? Seems like a big problem.
It is a problem, but
Make
you have
everyone
to deal
count.
with it. You got to deal with it. I mean, we've went out and established other product lines in our stores that we didn't have before that filled a lot of voids for, in particular, some of the Japanese manufacturers and the smaller units. We've had great success with one of the brands that's out here on the showroom floor, and if I were a dealer, I'd be talking to them.
Do you want to share the name of the brand?
We've done really, really well with KO, and they've been extremely reliable. Couple carburetor issues, we know how to fix it. It's typically just in a couple of the models, and you're done.
How are you? It seems like more and more of the units now are pre-sold. How are you approaching that experience to manage the expectations, to make sure that there's a good experience when they come in? And essentially, it's like, you want this in 3 months? Well, your favorite color is black now because that's what we have coming. How do you manage their expectations and make that a good experience when they have to pre-order months in advance?
Some of the manufacturers have obviously forced the dealers to do the pre-sold. And then there's a lot of dealers that are, doing pre-solds on their own that might necessarily not be the end user. But whatever it is, you got to play the game. And we are not really pre-selling any of our units that we put a lot of accessories on. Because if I pre-sell it to the guy, honestly, he's going to go online and he's going to be that 81%er, and he's going to call you and say, how much will you install this stuff for that I already bought that's sitting in my garage? We're taking the units that we currently have in crates with Can-Am and several of our guys that are customers that are doing big builds. We're building the rigs right now for them and accessorizing them, and by the time the parts show up to get the thing on the road, their rig's going to be ready to roll. Whereas before, they came in, bought the unit, and had to wait, 3 weeks to 6 weeks, depending on how extravagant they got on the builds, to take delivery of it anyways. Just set expectation levels with them, and don't be afraid to tell them that you don't have answers at this time. I mean, we see it on social media all the time that they're going, I think this dealer's blowing smoke up my ass. Well, no, the dealer's not, because the dealer doesn't have an answer. But the fact is, I'll call that customer out. And I'll give them my phone number and say, hey, you want to talk about it, feel free. But there's nobody on this forum that can answer your questions for you.
So the approach to selling accessorized, the built units, is working because they're getting what they want right out of the dealership. Matt, could you weigh in on what has changed about your approach to marketing? Because you're not marketing stock units anymore, because that's not part of what's available.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The landscape during I call it the COVID season, is always changing, right? So yeah, at the start of it, you get to the situation, you run out of inventory, then you deal with pre-sales, then you deal with the games from the OEMs, and you got to do what works for you. But now, when a little less on the pre-sale in certain regions, when you get them to the website, what is that experience for the consumer? So now we do things like spin cars, so the consumer can see more of what that vehicle has installed, so they can do the 360 around the outside of the vehicle, and then with the accessories on the inside, you can do hotspots for what's on the inside of the vehicle. And it's a teaser, because that MSRP now is a lot higher than what original MSRP is from the OEM. But okay, what are those differences? And now we don't put all of it online, you know what I mean? It's basically just an intro, because we do want them to call the store, get the conversation going, but it's just a different consumer experience that we have to adopt with. And then you close the loop, and how many touch points do you have on a consumer? And we use companies like a Rollick that basically we dedupe the list of the people. It's like, do you get a quote? You're interested in this? And I mean, you connect with the text messaging, and you just have to be really fast on the responses with consumers, because, yeah, they're sitting on the couch. And like you said, 95% of the research is done online. And all my data shows that 80% is pushing phone and tablet. That's where people are consuming everything. And if you can't give them an experience that people spend more time on your website and give them a reason to search around, they're just going to find it somewhere else.
So, Brian, you're the numbers guy. So tell me, what kind of impact has this had? What results are you getting financially in the dealership? Do you mind sharing?
In terms of unit sales, PG&A,
Yeah, unit,
service.
P&A, as it relates to each unit that you sell.
So this year, our unit sales are pretty flat, actually down a little bit. But our PG&A per unit sold, which means taking the amount of, installed PG&A minus divided by the units you sold, was up over $1,500 this year per unit.
And that's total unit volume.
total unit.
Including KO, including all the little bikes. We made that much more of an effort, because Brian and I and Matt and Brandon sat down and realized that we had a lot more parts inventory than we were comfortable with. And we come up with a package A, a package B, and a package C, particularly on our Can-Ams, that the unit came in, it got that on it, period. We stopped taking deposits on Can-Ams because the guy would buy it, then he would go online, shop, buy all this shit, and then come in and want to get it put on. That's not what this is about. We need to clean our house out. We got rid of a ton of non-current. I mean, there was tires and wheels that I razzed him about that we put on rigs and sold them in 2 days. But they sat in the corner for 9 months because somebody thought they were ugly, and I probably should have kept my mouth shut about that.
So you're not seeing the big inventory increases because you're getting it on the units.
We're putting it on the
getting
rigs.
it out the door.
I mean, right now, I bet our average accessory build on a Can-Am Max is over $10,000, and our average build on a Defender Limited is pushing 20.
That's awesome. I want to shift over to employees. A lot of dealers mentioned yesterday in the session that Mark Rogers moderated that the staff, it's hard to recruit and retain great people. What is Nash doing? What's Nash Powersports doing to make sure that you keep a great team? I can see the rock stars that we have here on stage, but you've got a whole team that's running the dealerships while you're here at the show. What are you guys doing?
We treat them right. Make it a fun place to work. Make it a place where they're, acknowledged and rewarded for what they do. We don't have any employees that aren't on some sort of commission pay plan, except for our 3 girls in the office that do title work and funding. Everyone else is getting paid to play.
So everyone shares in the success, in the profit. Everyone's on some kind of incentive-based compensation. That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, I'm 56 years old and I don't want to work anymore too hard. I like playing golf. I sell as many rigs on the golf course or out riding as I do, sitting in my office at the store. And if I did my job properly, then everyone below me should know what they're doing and they should be able to handle it.
That's
The
awesome.
the other thing, Jared, is the three of us, including Brandon, who's not here today, we're in the dealerships every day. So there isn't really an issue that can arise or a burn or somebody's saddle that festers. We know about it quick, and we're there to fix it immediately. I mean,
Yeah, not
Mesa,
too far away.
Scottsdale, he'll be in Phoenix today. I'll be in Scottsdale tomorrow, and he'll be in Mesa tomorrow. And
Divide and conquer.
Saturday will be a different thing. Who's having a store meeting that day will be there. So they know we're there, and we're all approachable. Makes a big difference.
That's great.
It took a while for Brian to be approachable, but he's approachable now.
He just needed to get laid.
All right, secrets of success, unfiltered and uncut here on the AIMExpo education stage today. I'd like, in the time that we have, I think that we'd really like to hear, and I think the dealers here would like to hear, what are you doing to set yourself apart? There's some big forces. There's some big competitors out there.
Yeah, there's this little company called Ride Now, which is now Rumble On, that I might be a little familiar with over the past, 27 years. But, my approach was to get all of my employees involved, whether they're at the store or outside of the store, just eating and breathing what we do. We sponsor, like they said, our own rides. We've partnered with a guy that's doing a really cool job with a bunch of UTV jamborees that we participate with. We are participating in the AZOP racing program that's mainly UTV racing at this point, but it's also ATV and motorcycles, so we're seeing a ton of that. And, it's not just the racer side of it, because they all have families and they all have friends, and we end up benefiting a lot from being out there and being approachable, and I think the customers know they're going to get a fair deal.
You're making meaning in the community, and it seems like that's really what's propelled, or something that's really propelled the Nash brand. What adjustments have you made? And maybe I'll ask Matt this. What adjustments have you made in the pandemic in terms of community, in terms of marketing? What other things have you done that you've pivoted or made changes or done more of?
Well, like they mentioned a little bit, is sponsoring those UTV rides. And it gives us the opportunity to get in front of that consumer on neutral turf. You know what I mean? They're out there with their vehicle. You talk to them, and heck, been in conversations with people, and they learn the fact that, hey, they have different air pressure that they need to run in their tires versus this. And it's like they leave one dealership, and they're like, they didn't tell me anything. And now we get the opportunity to spend time with them and do that with them, which makes a big difference. And then basically internal socially with the content, it is more about the lifestyle. It's about the community. It's about just the content with the guys, and even giving our guys internal the opportunity to demo some of the product and give their own personal feedback. And it's organic for sure. Like, not gonna lie, some of them are great. Some of them are like, okay, he's a little long-winded. He repeated that word like 40 times. You know what I mean? But it's good, and actually people enjoy it because it's real. You know what I mean? And so giving our guys the ability and platform actually helps them as a sales guys too, because it's like in that video, it's like, come on in and see me, and it's just exposure, and it's another touch point that they can reach out further to get people in, which is good.
I was just going to say, Matt, can you comment on the traffic we get on social media as well from the Nasty Nation, as we call them, people that have believed in what we've done. We've asked for referrals. They're out there. They're working for us, where, there's three of us keyboard warriors. We might be sitting in an office at one of the stores, and we're on all platforms looking for customers. And these guys, there's customers that beat us to it. Say, hey, I'm looking for an X3 Max, or I'm looking for a 10 700, and there's customers going, Nash Powersports, Nash Powersports, Nash Powersports. You're 5 down the list, and it's Nash Powersports. So
It seems like, I mean, what we see here is this theme of there's the buying experience that you're perfecting and you're constantly working on and improving. But then in addition to that, you're going out and improving not just the buying experience, but the ownership experience of your customers.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, we're putting packages together and we're actually buying product to save our customers money. If we go out and buy something at a reasonable rate, we're not putting it to market at MSRP and making 70 points on it. We're saying what can we make that we're comfortable with, that drives traffic, that's good for our consumers, that lets us get through the product that we just bought. So we have $900 tire packages, for instance, with tire and rims and wheels that we went out and bought for our units to dress, but we extend that to the consumers. So now you got customers calling from all over the country, seeing our ads, wanting us to ship it to them, and we got service customers coming in and people in different marketplaces. We don't carry Razor in any of our stores in Arizona, just in Washington, and we're getting Razor customers come in. We treat them right. Now we got Razors rolling through the door for services and parts and accessories and stereos and all the other stuff. So just giving them a little bit something different every time we do something. And always working for them, period.
It seems like there's a couple approaches with the pricing. And Bill, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this because I hear that you got the fair pricing on the parts and accessories, you do the packages, and you're just rolling. With the units, we've seen in national news auto dealers that are charging huge buyer's premiums, $5,000 per unit above MSRP. Is that the right practice in Powersports on the units when there's a huge scarcity issue? And what's your school of thinking on pricing for units?
I mean, right now, everything's MSRP plus freight, setup, tax, license, dock. We aren't a dealership that inflates any of that stuff. We're passing along those pricing to the consumer. But we're also, accessorizing, particularly, again, the side-by-sides, and putting a lot of accessories on. And I've had several people get a hold of me and say, hey, I want to buy a Honda Talon 4-seater, but I don't want all those accessories on it. I'm like, great, you know what? We'll take a deposit from you, and when we got a good enough supply to be able to justify selling one of those without any accessories on it, I'll be the first one to call you. Because that guy could go down the street and another dealer would try to charge him $5,000 over. I'll put $5,000 in accessories on it and sell them to it for that. And I had a lady that chewed my butt because she finally just was like, I can't wait any longer. I'm going to buy this. And it had $13,000 worth of stuff on it. She was very negative on a Facebook post about it. And I went on and I addressed the issue. She called me back and she said, I'm just going to delete that post because once you explained to me why you guys did what you did, I'm okay with it. And she's sent us several customers since then.
At the end of the day, these are accessories that the consumer is going to buy anyway. And it's a different conversation from us. And yeah, people look at it, it's like, well, I want to buy it stock. It's like, yeah, sure, that's the starting conversation. But what kind of riding are you going to do? You get to learn what the person's going to do with it. And at the end of the day, it may have started out at $5,000 with the conversation with our internal guys that's their job with customs and stuff like that. They start to dig a little deeper. Then they walk out at $13,000 and it's actually everything that they wanted. And they're the ones that increased the price. They were just a little agitated that we're like, no, you can't have it stock. It was going to happen anyway. It's just a different conversation.
Don't market it stock. If you got a unit coming in that you're going to accessorize, don't let anybody know about it till it shows up. Have the accessories there ready to do it. And, we can get a rig through in 3 or 4 days with a stereo, a cage, wheels and tires, seats, and get it on the floor, then market it.
So the live feed, as soon as it shows up in Lightspeed Evo, it's not going onto the website as a stock unit.
Put it on hold.
You're putting all this inventory on hold.
We had our pain on that one already.
There's some fun stuff around that, but yeah, it's always hoops to jump through.
But one of the things I was going to bring up, Jared, and along the same lines, is we had a store meeting in Phoenix, an all-store meeting last weekend, and I scrunched some of the numbers, and our growth in PG&A, 80% of that was on RO. So there you're standing in front of your staff, and you're looking at them, and you're thinking, we grew our business just within hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars within these 4 walls without a single retail customer coming in the door. And everybody was like, oh my God. Well, obviously we still we were still up in retail sales in PG&A and on customer pay on labor, but 80% of that was all internal growth. So
That's
we're fueling ourselves during COVID.
And through all of this, it's working for the dealership, but you're saving all of those customers the time and the pain of going out and trying to figure out what they need to order online and figuring out how to get it installed and all of that could result in a much worse ownership experience. You're saving them from themselves by providing this service up front, holding back the units and making sure they're going out the door with a unit that they're going to have a blast with.
One other quick statistic is in the Phoenix market anyways, in our Maricopa County stores, we have 3 stores there. We injected, Bill went out and was very aggressive about getting another brand of like Taiwanese or Taiwan.
I have no idea.
So anyways, they're here, as he mentioned. Our sales number at the end of the thing, we injected over 500 new customers in the 50cc to 125cc marketplace for our business. 500 new customers that couldn't afford a $3,200 Raptor 50 or whatever, and those people are buying helmets, they're buying goggles, the kids are having a blast. Those are our future customers. 500 new riders just this year in the last 12 months. That's pretty big.
That's awesome, and we'll be talking more this afternoon. Our time is up, but I do want to get back to Ride Now, Bill. And in our session today at 2:30 p.m., we are going to have Bill talk to us about why did you leave Ride Now Powersports after all those years building it, and went out and started Nash Powersports. Is that all right if we talk about that?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll talk more about that this afternoon. We'll dive more into cultivating this community of new riders, which, Brian, that's a great segue. Here's my contact information. If you'd like an accountability partner and you want to share the problems that you're going to go tackle in your dealership, both in your business and for others, I'd love to hear from you, so reach out. Let's give Bill, Brian, and Matt a huge round of applause for joining us today. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you all again later this afternoon.
Thank you, Jared, Bill, Brian, Matt. Great information. And we're looking forward to hearing from you again later today at 2:30. This session was sponsored by eBay Motors. Visit their e-commerce center at booth number 3073.